Man, Greg's truck looks a little rough. But believe it or not, we're a lot closer than it looks. Now, Greg is a good friend of mine. He's a first responder. Back in 2004, I built him an 800 horsepower Civic. This is a whole new ball game for him. He's got a LSX engine that's going to be producing 1,800 horsepower, and he's already installed a full suspension and rear end to handle all that power. Now, the outside of the truck isn't bad. The inside needs a complete overhaul. The outside, you know, he's got a 4-inch cowl hood on it. He can live with the exterior for a little bit, but today's prices with labor shortage and backup on body shops, it's going to take a long time and cost a lot of money to get the exterior done. So for now, because you live inside the interior of your vehicle, we're going to do everything new on the inside. We're going to give it a new front fascia, a new rear bumper, and really spruce it up. I'll even level the truck before it leaves the shop. Now, I went to Brothers Truck Parts because they're their #1 source for 1947 to 87 GMC and Chevy truck restoration parts. I got everything we need to make the interior look brand new. Not only the big parts, but all the little parts that make it possible. The clips, the screws, the retainers, all that stuff you need to complete the interior. Now that I got everything apart, I'm ready to go back in with my new instrument cluster. The instrument cluster is going to have a brain. All the wires for the sending unit, the lights, the signal wires for the turn signals, the flashers, brakes, all that stuff is going to come from the main harness that used to go to the old cluster. So you will have to use something like a power probe so that once the truck has power, you can go through and probe exactly what wire needs to go to what slot on the brain. Now, if you want to do it real nice, you could take a connector, a two-way Molex, male and female, and do all your wires on one end of the connector, and then the other end of the connector, go to the chassis and get rid of this plug using the wires that you need for your other connector. You can put this anywhere you want, and you'll have a sub-harness making this completely serviceable at any time. What I'm doing here is hooking up a ground, a constant power, and switched ignition power. And this is going to power up the brain in order to get the lights and the sweep on the cluster itself. Then I'm going to screw this in with 2 self-tapping screws, and I'm going to use a drill bit and a drill. All right, so as you can see, I put the cluster's brain right there on the firewall. That way I've got good access to it. I can see everything. I can get to all my terminals, and it's protected, securely mounted in place, and we're good to go. So the factory comes with 4-inch speakers on the dash itself. The one I'm putting in from Brothers also does not have the cutouts because we're going to be putting speakers in the kick panels, and we already have speakers in the doors. So I went ahead and removed those speakers, and we're not going to be reusing them. You're going to transfer over the retaining clips, or you can buy new ones. All right, then on the bottom of the dashboard is going to be 4 holes that you're going to have to make, and there's going to be 4 receivers on the dash itself. So the good thing is that this one's right here. So we'll put that in there, we'll tighten it, we'll lock it. You know, that looks nice. Everything fit really well, except the bezel looks pretty crusty and old. Looks original. Now it's broken right here, the rest of it fits. So I'm going to call Brothers. I'm going to get me a new bezel that's going to really complement and finish off the instrument cluster. This area here with the new aluminum trim, that's going to need new vents. I didn't want to put the old crusty ones back in, so I'm going to get some from Brothers as well. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to call Locar and get me a digital shift indicator. Didn't put that one back. And then I'm going to go ahead with the new door panels, and the trim along here is going to match the new trim on the dash, and this is going to start to look really nice. All right, so continuing with our Project C10, I've got the dashboard and new instrument cluster in place. I'm going to go with my new door panels now. I got nice new black door panels, and the original has wooden trim up top. I'm going to go with this nice aluminum trim to match the new trim on the dash. Now, those are going to get bolted in with those studs and speed nuts on the door panel itself. On the back of the panel, there's going to be little indentions where you can see where those holes are going to be drilled. And you want to double check and make sure you measure these just to make sure those holes are correct. And if they're not, it's okay, because that's going to cover whatever holes you mistakenly put in place. So first I'm going to put both my aluminum pieces on my panels, remove the old ones, and go in with the new ones. Before you continue, you drop that clip, you stop, locate it, put it away, then continue working. If not, you'll be looking for about 2 days. that guy wasn't even bolted in. There's supposed to be 4 screws on the bottom. There were none there. So really it was just slid into place, and the only thing holding it in place was the 1 screw right there in the middle. Now, I'm not gonna go back with this strap or that wooden trim. The new panel is gonna have the aluminum trim that's gonna match the dashboard. So we're gonna put on our pad, okay? That screws into place from the bottom, right? And this is left hand, just in case you guys are wondering. It does have a mark on the inside of the panel that says left hand, meaning driver's side, if you're in America. So after doing some measurements, I found out that this lines up with the outside studs. The second stud, there's 2 holes, so the outside one lines up with my stud. Unfortunately, this one is roughly 1 inch off. So just to make sure, because I know the 2 outside ones line up, I'm gonna take some white paint, so now I can very confidently drill my holes. All right, so when you guys are putting your armrest on, there's 1 stud and 2 empty holes. These 2 empty holes are gonna go inside the bracket that's on the door itself. That way when you pull the door panel, you're actually pulling solid metal. So when you put on your 1 stud, you see I've doubled up washers. Make sure that you're lined up. Then these 2 push clips are gonna go in here. So that hole there is gonna be for my hand crank. The reason why they don't drill the hole for you is because the SAM door panel is going to work on a manual door regulator or a electronic window regulator, that square being where you would normally put the switches for the windows. But because we're using a hand crank, the circle's there. Double check and make sure the circle is in the correct spot before you make your hole. I did, we're good. Man, that looks so good. Brothers really knocked it out the park. It's so nice when you get aftermarket parts and it fits as well as these do. You know you've done a good job when the door panel aluminum trim lines up perfectly with the dash aluminum trim when you close the door. So that is really nice. Either brothers did a really good job on the parts, which they always do, or the truck's ever been wrecked. I think it's the first one. Now, when you guys get your door panels, it's gonna be brand new and you've spent a lot of money on them. Make sure that before you put the crank on the new door panel, Brothers does sell these plastic retainers that goes behind it, basically a washer. And that's gonna keep those scratches from occurring on your new door panel. So we're gonna continue with our theme on the interior. So next we're gonna be moving on to the carpet and the headliner. After that, we're gonna reupholster the seat and put a period on the interior. All right, and continuing with our C10 project, interior rebuild, next I'm gonna do the carpet and the headliner. Now, Brothers also sells this sound deadening mat that you can take, cut up, and put wherever you want in the truck. As you can see, Greg's taking care of the whole floor, but I could put this on the roof if I wanted to. The headliner has some padding with it, so it's gonna do a good job of installation as well. I'm gonna do the carpet first because I don't wanna ruin my pants. All that tar from the sound deadening can get on you and it's very hard to come off. So Greg, good job there. We're gonna do the carpet, then we're gonna knock out the trim, remove it, put up our headliner, replace the trim, and put in new visors to top the interior off. All right, I got the carpet ready to go. As you can see, there are no holes in it for the seats. So you're gonna do that once you put it in the truck. You can put studs in through the bottom. It'll poke out the top. That way you can take your razor blade and make the hole. Or you can find the holes before, put screws in through the top, and that way you got the head of the bolt sticking out and you know where to put the razor blade holes. To put the back piece on the carpet, we're gonna use Velcro. We're gonna put the Velcro on top, and then the carpet backing has the receiver side of the Velcro, and it just stays in place. But first you wanna clean everything off so that the glue on the Velcro adheres really good. Because ultimately that's what's holding on your carpet. Now this truck has speakers from the factory right there. This carpet is gonna have to go behind that speaker grill. So I'm gonna remove that speaker, put the carpet behind it, drill some holes, and put the speakers back. All right, now that the floor is done, it's time to tackle the roof. I'm gonna take off all the trim, pull down the headliner and the visors. I went to Brothers, got all new parts, visors, brackets, headliner. I'm gonna reinstall those now. Now that I've got everything removed, you guys can see where the visors go in. There's gonna be a hole and 3 receivers. I'm not gonna cut the hole in the headliner until I have it in place and screwed in so that you can feel it. They've already got an area where you can cut the hole out and make that nice and tight. Same thing with the dome light. I'm gonna put the wire in. I'm not gonna put the hole in there yet because I can put the hole in afterwards. It's already there for us to do it. All right, I'm gonna get Julie to hold it for me in place while I screw it in. You can feel the hole. You can feel where the indentation in the roof is. On each side of this is going to be 3 catches for your screw to go through. You're going to take an X-Acto knife. We're going to poke a hole, peel back the headliner in, not out, and then we're going to very carefully screw our screws in, because the last thing you want to do is for the screw to catch the headliner material, and as you're screwing that screw in, it's just pulling the headliner apart. So be careful there. Looks really good. It's coming along. The headliner fits nice. All the trim looks good. The carpet, that really set off the interior. Now remember, when you guys are doing your headliner and you're putting your visors in, make sure to put the visor up against the headliner and it fits the indentation before you put it onto the mount itself. There is a left and right, and then you can also flip it. Put a little lube on the shaft and then put the visor in. It's not gonna go in all the way, so be careful. This thing is really coming along. Next, we're gonna be attacking the seat and we're gonna recover it. If you guys want your truck to look as good as this one does in the interior, make sure to check out Brothers Truck Parts, because they are your #1 source for 1947 to 1987 GMC and Chevy truck parts. Alrighty, we're gonna be doing the fun part now. Reupholstering the seat. I've never done this before, but I've seen it done and I'm sure I can knock it out. I went to Brothers Truck Parts and I got an upper and lower complete seat cover with the hog ring kit. Comes with the pliers and all the hog rings you need to get the new cover on. Now the foam underneath the cover is perfectly fine. As you can see, the cover doesn't even have any tears in it, so the foam is intact, making it the perfect candidate for a reupholstery job. Then once this is done, the interior of that truck is gonna look brand new again. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is remove our trim that's covering the hardware for this seat. Now this plastic trim piece is absolutely fine, looks original to the truck. I'm just going to scuff it up, prime and paint it, and reuse it. If you notice, 2 washers fell off, plastic Teflon washers. It's always a good idea to pay attention to what you're doing, because I just noticed these 2 falling on the ground. I would not have known they were there had I not seen them fall. And they're gonna go basically right here, protecting the cushions upholstery from the metal bracket. First thing I'm gonna do is cut off all the hog rings that are holding the cover onto the cushion. So what I'm using is a pair of side cutters, and these hog rings are pretty thick. So if you go to cut off all the hog rings on this, you'll probably destroy a good set of side cutters. So what I'm doing is I'm gripping the hog ring, twisting it out. That way I'm not trying to cut the hog ring, dulling my tool. When you're doing this, be careful, because like I mentioned, my cushion's in good shape. So what I don't want to do is accidentally pull the cover off the cushion and take a piece of the foam out. I got my new cover from Brothers Truck Parts. That is very nice. I decided to give it a silver inlay, cloth, reminiscent of the late 80s, early 90s trucks, vinyl in the middle. Make sure that when you guys are installing your cover, that you do it face up. You don't want to put it on backwards, that would stink. So the next thing you're going to do is on the bottom of the cushion where I cut the old hog rings off, you can see the remnants of it. There's going to be a wire that is at the very bottom of the foam. What you're going to do is you're going to take your hog ring, go through both pieces of fabric, and grab onto that wire. Now the bottom seat cushion is a little bit different from the top. It's got a plastic retainer that's going to go in and hold the edge of the bottom of the cushion, and then you're going to hog ring the rest of it. Now don't forget, when I took off the tracks, there was a wire connecting the 2 tracks left and right together. That's going to go through a hog ring. So this middle one, leave it out until you put the tracks on. That is nice. I'm very proud of myself for reupholstering the seat. First time ever. wasn't bad at all. It's actually pretty easy. It's very nice to look inside the cab of your truck and see that everything is new. Those kick panels worked out great with the 6.5-inch speakers in them. There are a couple of trim pieces that we're waiting on supply chains. Greg's gonna have to take care of that himself. Should be pretty easy. And he's also gonna bolt down the seat because he's gotta take it back out and do a cage in it. Next, what we're gonna do is tackle this front end. It's nasty. We're gonna do a new billet grille, also from Brothers Truck Parts, bumpers, and the rear bumper. Don't forget those brackets. So if you guys want your truck to look as good as this truck, make sure to check out Brothers Truck Parts. They are your #1 source for 1947 to 87 Silverados and GMC trucks.